Hi, preparing for TET? Want to score more marks in TET easily? 1 mark questions can decide your TET results. Let's practice the most important 1 mark questions from Unit 2 now. How many children are in the picture? There are 10 children in the picture. What are the children doing? They are playing around a big tree. Who is sitting on the branch with a book? A boy is sitting on the branch with a book. Who is using binoculars? A girl is using binoculars. Who is plucking fruits from the tree? A girl is plucking fruits from the tree. Who is swinging from the roots? A girl is swinging from the hanging roots. Who is climbing the tree? A boy is climbing the tree. What animals are seen in the picture? Monkeys are seen in the picture. What are the birds doing? Birds are sitting in the nest or tree. Where are the children playing? They are playing in a garden. What is the main object in the picture? A large tree is the main object in the picture. Are the children enjoying themselves? Yes, the children are enjoying themselves. What is seen in the picture? A village house and a garden are seen in the picture. Who are sitting near the house? A boy and an old woman are sitting near the house. What is the old man wearing? He is wearing a hat and glasses. What tree is near the house? A mango tree is near the house. What is hanging from the tree? Mangoes are hanging from the tree. What are flying in the sky? Birds are flying in the sky. What insect is near the flowers? A butterfly is near the flowers. What is growing on the house wall? A creeper plant is growing on the house wall. What is behind the house? Tall trees are behind the house. What runs through the village? A pathway runs through the village. How does the place look? The place looks beautiful and peaceful. Where may this scene be located? This scene may be located in a village. When did the garden become a happy place for the author? A garden became a happy place when grandfather joined the author. What are the 2 reasons the author gives for the plants moving towards grandfather? The 2 reasons are it may be due to light and warmth. The author felt the plant wanted to be near grandfather. Why does the writer think that the peepal tree is a great show-off? The writer thinks the peepal tree is a great show-off because its leaves spin and attracts attention even when there is no breeze. Where was the author sitting one morning? The author was sitting beside grandfather on the veranda steps. What did the author notice near him? He noticed a tendril for a creeping vine. Towards whom did the tendril move? It moved towards grandfather. How long the tendril take to touch grandfather's feet? It looks 20 minutes. What science reason does the author suggest for the plant's movement? Light and warmth may be the reason. Where had grandfather worked for many years? He had worked in the Indian Forest Service. Where did grandfather build his bungalow after retirement? He built it on the outskirts of Dehradun. Name any 2 fruit trees planted by grandfather, mango and guava. Which valley is mentioned in the passage? The Doon Valley is mentioned. What tree had forced its way through the outhouse walls? A peepal tree had forced its way through the walls. Why is the peepal tree called a great show-off? Because it leaves spin and attracts attention. What did grandmother prefer growing? She preferred growing flowers. Why did grandfather help grandmother in gardening? Because he liked watching butterflies. How can butterflies be attracted according to grandfather? By growing flowers for them. Who was sitting with the author? A grandfather was sitting with the author. What plant did the author see? He saw a creeping vine. Where did the tendril move? It moved towards grandfather. What touched grandfather's feet? The tendril touched his feet. What did grandfather know well? He knew trees well. Where did grandfather build his house? He built his house in Dehradun. Name 1 tree planted by his grandfather, mango tree. Which tree grew through the wall? The peepal tree grew through the wall. Who wanted the peepal tree cut down? Grandmother wanted it cut down. What did grandmother like to grow? She liked to grow flowers. What did grandfather like to watch? He liked to watch butterflies. How can we attract butterflies? By growing flowers. Was grandfather content with growing trees only in the compound? No, grandfather was not content. Where did grandfather go during the rains? He went to the jungle beyond the river bed. What did grandfather carry with him? He carried cuttings and saplings. Where did he plant them? He planted them in the forest. Why did the author protest? Because no one come there to see them. Why did grandfather plant trees in the forest? For the forest and for animals and birds. Who need more food and shelter? Animals and birds need more food and shelter. Why do men need tree? Men need trees for many uses. What do trees help to attract? Trees help to attract rain. What do trees prevent from being washed away? They prevent river banks from being washed away. What will happen if we do not plant trees? The world will become one great desert. What are men doing without replacing trees? Men are cutting down trees. Was grandfather content? No. When did grandfather go to the jungle during rains? What did he carry? Cuttings and saplings. Where did he plant them? In the forest. Who protested? The author. For whom were the trees planted? Animals and birds. What do trees attract? Rain. What do trees prevent? Soil erosion. What do men cut down? Trees. What do the world become? A desert. What did the farmer notice? The farmer noticed a small fruit hanging from a branch. What became a nightmare to the author? A world without trees became a nightmare to the author. Whom did the author help in tree planting? He helped grandfather. Who taught the author a poem? Grandfather taught him a poem. What did grandfather say trees would do again one day? They would move again. Who cast a spell over the trees? An interfering busybody cast a spell. Which tree is mentioned with traveling aerial routes? The banyan tree. Where did they find a small island? In a dry riverbed. What was growing on the island? A small mango tree. What did the small mango tree inspire grandfather to do? Plant more sapling tree. When did they begin planting on the island? When the rain sets in. Name one sapling planted on the island. Tamarind sapling. Name one other sapling planted on the island. Lemburnum sapling. What did they spend the day doing? Planting saplings. Which season was the time for rambling about? The monsoon season. What did the rains bring to the earth? Life and greenness. Where did plants spring up? In the most unlikely places. What would take root in the ceiling? A peepal tree. What would sprout on the windowsill? A mango tree. Why were plants removed from the house? To keep the house from falling down. Where was the author sent during the Second World War? To a boarding school. Where did grandparents go after selling the house? To England. Where did the author return after some years? To Dehradun. What caught the author's eye near the riverbed? Red blooms of the coral blossom. How did the island look? Like a small green paradise. What animals were living in the trees? Squirrels. Which bird challenged the author? A crow pheasant. What did the trees seem to do when the author returned? They seemed to know him. What did the trees do among themselves? They whispered among themselves. What did the trees beckon the author to do? They beckoned him nearer. What had sprung up under the trees' protection? Smaller trees, wild plants and grasses. What had happened to the trees they planted long ago? They had multiplied. Whose dream had come true? Grandfather's dream. Who wrote the lesson? Ruskin Bond. How many books has Ruskin Bond written? More than 500 books. Where did Ruskin Bond live? In Landour, Missouri. Which award did Ruskin Bond receive in 1999? Padma Shri. Which award did he receive in 2014? Padma Bhushan. Why did the author not want to plant saplings in the forest? Because no one would come to see them. Why did grandfather plant trees in the forest? To help animals and birds live easily. From where did the author return to Dehradun? From England. What had covered the island when the author returned? A forest had covered the island. What did grandfather build after retirement? He built a bungalow. What did grandfather do during the rains? He walked to the jungle. What kind of island did they find? A small rocky island. What did grandfather do on this island? He planted saplings. What did the author do after some years? He returned to Dehradun. What did the author notice around him? He noticed many trees and plants. Which is the largest of trees? The banyan is the largest of trees. Which tree quivers in the breeze? The peepal tree quivers in the breeze. Which tree grows straight and tall? The coconut tree grows straight and tall. How are the neem trees fruits? They are very small. Which tree gives pleasant shade? The tamarind tree gives pleasant shade. Which leaf is as sharp as a blade? The date leaf is as sharp as blade. Which tree gives useful wood? The tea tree gives useful wood. Which tree gives good fruit? The mango tree gives good fruit. What does quivers mean? It means shakes quickly. What does pleasant mean? It means enjoyable. Who adapted the poem? Sarah College adapted the poem. What is the title of the poem? The title of the poem is Trees. What does the poem describe? The poem describes different kinds of trees. Which tree is mentioned first in the poem? The banyan tree. Which tree is mentioned last in the poem? The mango tree. How does the poet describe the coconut tree? As straight and tall. How does the poet describe the tamarind shade? As pleasant. What is compared to a blade in the poem? The date leaf. What does the teak tree provide? Useful wood. What does the mango tree provide? Good fruit. How many different trees are mentioned in the poem? 7 trees are mentioned in the poem. What kind of poem is this? It is a nature poem. What is the main theme of the poem? The usefulness and beauty of trees. What is the main character in the story? A farmer is the main character. Where did the farmer live? He lived in a village in the hills. What was beside the village? A forest was beside the village. What did the farmer grow in his farm? He grew many kinds of vegetables. What tree did he have on his farm? He had an apple tree. What fruit did the farmer's family enjoy? They enjoyed apples. What did the farmer do under the tree as a boy? He played with his friends. Which game did they play around the tree? They played hide and seek. What did the boy do by climbing the tree? They swung on it. What did they pluck from the tree? They plucked apples. What did the boy grow into? He grew into a man. Who took over the farm? The man took over the farm. Who started living in the tree later? Small animals and birds started living in the trees. Why was the apple tree bearing fewer fruits? Besides, it had grown old. What did the farmer enjoy under the tree in summer? Its shade. Why did the farmer want to cut the trees? He wanted to use the space for vegetables. What else did the farmer want from the tree? Its wood for building a room. What did the farmer use to chop the tree? An axe. Who came rushing down when he chopped the tree? Animals, birds and insects. How did the animals react? They ran around in alarm. Who pleaded with the farmer? His daughter and her friends. Why did the children ask him not to cut the tree? Because small animals lived in it. What did the farmer suddenly notice on the branch? A small apple. What came rushing back to the farmer? His childhood memories. What did the farmer finally do with the axe? He threw it away. What promise did the farmer make? He promised never to cut the tree. What did he call the trees for the children? Their playground. What did the farmer notice hanging from the branch? A small apple. What did the farmer do after seeing the apple? He plucked it and bit into it. What came rushing back to the farmer's mind? His childhood memories. Who noticed the changed expression on the father's face? His daughter. Why did the daughter plead harder? She saw her father's changed expression. Who said, please don't cut the trees? The farmer's daughter and her friends. Who said, you can enjoy the shade when you become old? The farmer's daughter. Who promised never to cut the tree? The farmer. Why were the animals worried? The farmer began to chop the tree. Why did the children come out? They heard the accommodation of the creatures. What did the farmer finally decide? Not to cut the tree. What was the apple tree home to? Many little animals. What did the farmer throw away? His axe. What did the farmer want his daughters to have? A happy childhood like this. What did the farmer call the tree for his daughter and friends? Their playground. Why did the farmer decide to cut the tree? He thought it was useless. What did the farmer ignore? The cries of the animals. What brought back the farmer's childhood memories? The taste of the apple. What made the farmer realize his mistake? His childhood memories. Where had the farmer spent his childhood playing? Under the apple tree. Under the apple tree. Who pleaded with the farmer? The little animals in the tree. What would happen if the little animals become homeless? They will lose their shelter. Which part of the story teaches a moral lesson? Which part of the story teaches a moral lesson? The farmer realizing his mistake. What lesson does the story teach? We should protect trees and animals. What kind of tree did the farmer have? An old apple tree. Why is apple is important in the story? It reminded the farmer of his childhood. What changed the farmer's decision? His memories and emotions.